Hello, how are you? Welcome to my channel. My name is Ruth and today I thought I would do, if you saw my Panthers eyeshadows update finale kind of video, I said in it that I wanted to do a video just on shadows I'd hit pan on in the year, because I feel it'd be a good one for me to be able to look back on myself and kind of see, you know, next year, do I do better again? I hope I do. I'm kind of happy with the progress I've made this year. I don't think I've done too badly. But yeah, that's what I thought I'd do today. So hopefully you'll enjoy this. And if you have any videos like this that you were doing for the end of the year, please let me know, because I'd love to see them. I'm always fascinated to see, like, I follow nearly all the project planners, let's be honest. But like, I just find it so intriguing how some people can get through so many eyeshadows and other people, how laser focused they can be. I'm very much, I get bored quickly. I need to kind of move on to the next thing. Where some people are so dedicated and are so focused. I need to try and channel that a little bit. Excuse me today, I am very, very, very bummed up. So I'm not, a lot of pressure going on, but I really wanted to do this video. So here we are. So I will just literally pick a palette, show you what I hit pan on. The first up is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Riviera palette, and the shade that I had in this was the shade Mediterranean. So this shade here, I had it in a Pandas Eyeshadows project this year. It's a very flaky shadow. You really need to, I used a kind of a sponge tip applicator to get it to pick up for me. That was one thing I struggled really with this. It's a very, very flaky eyeshadow. You definitely need to have a glitter glue down, and you definitely need something that's going to really pick it up for you. Wasn't my favorite shade, so I was really proud of myself that I persevered and made it work for myself. A lot of glitter and shimmer, which is very pretty, but I don't know, it wasn't my favourite, but I'm thrilled that I hit pan on it and that I got more use out of this palette this year. Needs a lot more loving, but look at, we've started, and that's the main thing. Next up is my Urban Decay Naked 2 palette. If you saw my, I want to say Throwback 30 video, I think it was, where I spoke about this. And this currently has 3 pans in it. I have to be very careful now because one of these colours keeps falling out. So I have, you can see here, here and here. So the 2 matte shades and 1 shimmer. Look at their basic shades. This is an old palette. So I would have had this before I had the multitude of palettes that I now have. So, you know what I mean, when you only have a couple of palettes, it's much easier to hit pan on shadows. So those are the 3 shades there that I've hit pan on in this. Look at, I am not a fan of the Urban Decay formula. I've come to learn that. I've tried a number of Urban Decay palettes over the years. I've decluttered a few of them, and I can't, unless there's a colour story and quality approval, is that what I'm trying to say? Yeah. I don't think I'll be buying any others from them. But the 3 shades that I have pan in are Foxy, Booty Call and Tease. So that's that one. I'd say that's probably the most I have in any palette. I have 3. I better roll up the old sleeves because this could get messy. Next up is the Pro Fusion Royals palette. Looking a bit battered, but that's because the packaging is kind of cheap on it. I don't mind, because the quality of the eyeshadow inside is actually quite lovely. This is the one that I hit pan on. I hit pan on this back at the start of the year. These are shallow enough pans. Some of these shades, the shimmer shades in particular, are quite, they're nearly like a bit of a putty formula. They're a beautiful shadow. I have to say, I'm so impressed with the quality of this palette. I would definitely consider getting more Pro Fusion, but not at the moment, because, you know, I don't need to be purchasing anything at the moment. Beautiful gold shade. I really enjoyed using it, and I remember at the time thinking when I got it rolled in, it was at the start of last year, or this year should I say, when I rolled it in, I was thinking, God, I'm not going to get much use out of this. I don't really like gold eyeshadows. Turns out I do. I absolutely loved it. So that is an absolutely beautiful shade. And I'm thrilled that I think I picked this up in Mr. Price. It's like a real budget, probably like the dollar store, Dollar Tree, whatever you call it in America. Kind of similar thing, you know, cheap and cheerful. But yeah, thoroughly enjoy this. And like I said, I would definitely consider trying out more Profusion. I think it was Sarah Rose did a video on some of her Profusion palettes, and they do seem to be a bit hit and miss. So I think it's worth kind of looking up reviews on YouTube before you go diving in and buying them. But love this palette, such a gorgeous little palette. Next up is my Too Faced Sweet Peach palette. This has been in my panner's pan for Danny, and she has just been rolled out because I hit pan on this shade here, and I have pan on this shade here as well. These guys I removed because I actually love the scent of this. I think it is gorgeous. I love that sweet peach scent that they have to it, but it seems to aggravate my eyes. Either the scent or Too Faced's formula, I'm not quite sure which. But I've always noticed the Too Faced shadows seem to irritate my eyes, and this is no exception. So I had removed some of these to try and make myself a kind of a Franken bronzer and a Franken blush, but it didn't work out because my concentration of alcohol is incorrect. I need to go on the hunt and try and find a better one. We don't have them as ready available here in Ireland as you do in America, so oh well, it's great. It was a bit of fun. So yeah, two shadows that I've hit pan on in this palette, and I will be decluttering this palette now because there's just no point. I'm not getting use out of it. It's a pity, but it is what it is, because it is a lovely colour story. I do enjoy the colour story. You won't even be able to see them because they're both just pasty pale shades, a kind of a peachy and a more cream light shade. But I have to say the colour story spoke to me, still speaks to me, but unfortunately the formula just doesn't work out for me. It is what it is. What can you do? Next up is the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde palette. I got this at the... Did I get it at the beginning of last year, I think? In the January sales. I got it for half off and I was thrilled because I wasn't going to pay full whack for it. I find her dead pricey. But as you can see, I have pan in this shade over here. This is a beautiful palette. Beautiful palette. I did a palette bingo on it with my friend Jen from Project Beauty, and I had great fun with it. But the shade that I have pan on is called Super Moon. And again, I'm being a bit unlucky this year with the shades that I've got. So I've got a lot of kind of what I would call flaky shades because they're just very, I don't know, an odd formula. And this one again, like it's lovely if you really press it on, but you don't tend to do that on your eyelid. There it is there. So it ends up looking a bit wishy-washy, I felt, on my eyelid. And again, definitely need a glitter glue and definitely need to wet your... I'd even suggest putting it on with a finger, to be honest with you, and having to really press it, but I don't like to do that on my elderly eyelids. You know, they need all the minding and preserving that I could do. But I do love this palette, and I'm delighted to have a pan in it, and hopefully it'll get rolled in again next year for me in a project. Next up, I have quite a few Revolution palettes because they're easily accessible. Revolution is nearly like Colourpop in that it's so easily accessible here in Ireland in comparison to Colourpop, which isn't at all. So I think you'll find a lot of UK and Irish kind of YouTubers or, you know, Instagrammers will have a lot of Revolution because it's cheap and cheerful. But this one is the Revolution Chilled palette, and the one that I have pan on is the shade Acapulco, which is this shade here. This is another absolutely beautiful palette, and this is very reminiscent of a Super Shock Shadow. Super Shock Shadow, in that it has that kind of putty kind of sensation, or, you know, cream to powder kind of. Yeah, definitely very much cream to powder. That is it there, if you can see it. It's a goldish kind of shade here. Not as intense as this guy up here from Profusion, but still very pretty, and I really enjoyed it. But again, it was a hard one to pick up on a regular brush. So again, it was finger or sponge applicator to get that to actually pick up and go on the eyelid. It's a beautiful palette. Look at all those beautiful greens and teals, and it's just a really, really beautiful palette. I need to play with it a bit more now that we're in the kind of... winter season nearly. Next up is the Revolution Soap Palette, and this is my Panda palette for next year. Panda palette, focus palette. You know, I won't be as dedicated as some people are to Panda palette, but I'll do my best. This is her here, and we have quite a few. We have 1, 2, 3 palette or pens in this already, which is brilliant. 2 of which were in Pando's eyeshadows, and 1 of which was in my 50 Shades of Purple. And these are them here. Let's go here. 2. The brown doesn't look great. No, it doesn't look great actually. The orange maybe. They look a bit wishy-washy there, but they're you know what I mean. You can pack them up, build them up, and they can look better in the eyes. I have found with the Revolution palette that collab palettes tend to be a bit better than their standard run-of-the-mill palettes. There's something to be aware of if you're purchasing them. They just seem to have that little bit better quality in their collab palettes, I have found personally. Next up is another soap palette. It was the second one she came out with, and it's the Extra Spice palette. Very shiny packaging, apologies. And the shade that I hit pan on in this one is called Chocolate Orange. I didn't pick up the third palette in this series because I felt like it was just another version of this, if you know what I mean. Just the shades nearly same again, just different levels of intensity or depths, if that makes sense. That's it there. What's that? Chocolate Orange I said, wasn't it? Yeah, Chocolate Orange. Beautiful shade, really, really pretty. But I just feel like I don't need it. Trying to be better at not buying all the things and kind of looking at my collection, assessing it. So many lights, you don't know how many times the Be Perfect Stacey Marie Antidote palette went into the cart over Black Friday, Cyber Monday, all the sales, 30%, 40% off, and like it was great value there at one stage, fantastic value. But I said, Ruth, look at the size of the palette. It's massive. It won't even fit in the drawer. 1. 2, you have all those shades. You have all those shades. And I held strong. Very proud of myself, guys. I'm very proud of myself. Like, I don't have money to spend at the moment. I do not have money. I am not working. Therefore, I cannot be spending my money on makeup. Just can't be doing it. Woo. This is also Revolution, but the kind of more expensive XX Revolution. This is an exposed. I have come to the conclusion that this sister brand that they have dove into just isn't worth it to me. Just is not worth it. It's all packaging and no quality, if that makes sense. They put all their money into the packaging and the product hasn't improved much, and it's too expensive for what it is. Pretty enough palette. Sorry, I didn't even show the shade. This is the shade I've hit pan on. Again, very flaky shade. I just seem to have had bad luck with these kind of having those this year. I mean, again, glitter glue down, wetting your brush or using your finger and even wetting the finger, things like that. Yes, you can get it to work 100%, but it's a bit of a faff. And that's fine if I'm sitting down to do a YouTube video and I want to spend the time and do my makeup. Fine. But if I'm looking to have my makeup done in 10-15 minutes, I'm not going to mess around with this. I'm just not. But it was pretty. So that one has hit pan. Next up is the PS Peachy Keen palette from Primark. $3.50. Was it $3.50 for this palette, lads? And it is gorgeous. I absolutely love this as a summer palette. It's just a fantastic little travel palette, and the shade there I've hit pan on, you can see, is a lovely peach kind of shade. It's just it was my go-to kind of shade to buff everything out. So this kind of took over from my Sweet Peach palette when I discovered that I love peaches and, you know, peach leaning shades. But that the Too Faced one wasn't working for me. $3.50. How could I go wrong? All of these, by the way, yeah, they're all cruelty free, just as an FYI, anything I've showed you here. is cruelty free. Somebody said recently that Pat McGrath is not cruelty free. Who said that? Was it Emily and Max maybe? Maybe it was Emily and Max. How I must have missed that memo because I thought they were. Not that I can afford to be buying Pat McGrath. But I do have a palette, a lip gloss and a lipstick from her. And I'd like to know. So I need to go delving further into that. But if it's something that you're aware of or you can point me in the direction, if you could let me know, I'd really appreciate it. Because I definitely missed out on that. I was sure she was, but maybe she's selling in China or something. I don't know. But I need to find out. Tangent, because I've no Pat McGrath palettes in here. How did I get down that rabbit hole? Cruelty free. Next up is a Colourpop shadow. Now, don't be deceived. It's not actually from my Baby Got Peach palette. It was from my Going Coconuts palette. But I've kind of taken some of the shades from that and put it into this just to make this a more cohesive palette for me. So it is this shade up here. I think it was... I can't remember. It's a brown shade. That's all you need to know, sure, isn't it? Yeah, so this is kind of very much a liner shade, an outer corner, and a little bit in the brows as well. Fine dark shade, good pigment to it. Yeah, not a bad shade at all. But yeah, I just needed this palette to be more cohesive, so that's why I kind of mix things around a little bit in it. Next up, I'm quite happy. I've hit quite a few. How many is that now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and a few. No, nearly 20. I have 20 pens this year. That's just delightful. Next up is the Colourpop Super Shock Shadow in the shade Dream Lover, and this was in my 50 Shades of Purple as well. And as you can see, I have a pen in the center there. I'll give you a bit of a swatch. Very interesting formula, this one, kind of a very wet feeling and a bit of a duochrome kind of thing going on in it. It was okay. I didn't love it, I didn't dislike it, it was fine. But I hit pen. Hurrah! Next up is another Super Shock Shadow, and this is an ultra metallic formula. What are you? You ultra metallic as well? Yeah, no, ultra glitter this one is. This one is ultra metallic in Moonwalk. And what was this in? I don't know. Dropped in before summer? No, Pan What May. I knew it was a project that was finished. And again, it seems to have a teeny bit of a duochrome kind of sensation to it. And again, it's fine, you know. I said it already in another video, and I just, you know, bears repeating. I don't love the Super Shock formula. I don't think. I don't know. Maybe it's the ones I chose. Quite possibly. They're fine. They're fine. But it's not worth the hassle it takes for me to get Colourpop to Ireland. If it was the case, I'd just pop into a shop and look at them and go, you know, yeah, fun. But for the hassle it takes to get it to Ireland, I don't know. Not worth it to me. I'm being a bit negative, Nancy, today. I do apologise. I think it's all the sniffles. This is the e.l.f. Cosmetics Hot Jalapeno palette. And again, I love this palette. It's this shade here that has a little teeny band in it. I don't know if I can get it to... Yay, there you can see the little glint of pan in it. This is a Pando's Eyeshadows one as well. And I just think this palette is fantastic as a little shot of colour into your collection without spending an arm and a leg, but yet still getting a really good quality little palette of greens. I just love it. Can't recommend it highly enough. I just think it's fantastic. Like I said, you know, if you're a neutral lover but you want to play around, dabble with a little bit of, you know, colour and you like greens, gorgeous. Really, really love this one. I know they have a blue one as well, but I'm not a big fan of blues, so I can't speak to it. But I would imagine it's as good. I don't know, maybe, I don't know. Somebody else, let us know down in the comments if it is. And last but by no means least is the Natasha Denona Mini Star Palette. And I have this shade here that I have hit pan on. These are kind of my more recent ones that I've hit pan on. Again, this is another one that I feel benefits from a glitter glue and a wet brush or a sponge tipped applicator. How many times have I already said that in this video? And yet still I'm like, what's that called again? There it is there. It's one of those green to brown kind of duochromes that everyone and their mother kind of has now. I think MAC were the original kind of ones to come out with that, and it's become a real, you know, go-to for most brands that are trying to do duochromes but can't do them as good as indie brands. I know Natasha isn't an indie, but you know what I mean, the Cleonas and, you know, the Divinas and the Kaleidos, you know, all these companies that are what I would call true indie brands. But yeah, that's what that one looks like. So that is all the eyeshadows that I have hit pan on this year. I'm very happy with that, I have to say. And definitely without Pandos eyeshadows, I would not, because I wouldn't have persevered. I would have used it once or twice and then moved on to something else. It's just the way I am. Whereas with the Pandos eyeshadows, it made me zero in and focus and push through. And if I didn't like a shade, try and find an ulterior way to use it, etc. So I really do love that project, which was of course started by Alexi, who I'll have linked below, because even though this isn't a Pandos eyeshadows video, it kind of is, because, you know, most of them are because of that. But yeah. How did you get on this year with your eyeshadows? Did you pan much? Did you not want to? Did you want to just play around with your eyeshadows? As I explained in my finale of Pandos eyeshadows, I will be changing things up a little bit next year, just to make sure that I'm rotating through my collection a bit more. But looking now and kind of going, okay, well, I did actually get through, you know, a good few palettes. But I don't want, like, for example, the Riviera palette there. I probably used a quarter of the palette, being realistic. You know, I used that, I used the peach, I used the cream, I used the purple because it was in my 50 shades of purple. You know what I mean? I haven't used all the shades in this palette, and I want to. So next year, one of the 5 of my shadows will be a No Pan Left Behind palette, if you know what I mean, because I want to make sure that I'm playing around. But yeah, I've really enjoyed this year, and I've enjoyed the progress, I've enjoyed what I've learned, and I'll definitely be doing it going forward. That's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was of some interest to you. Maybe I'll be the only one that'll watch it back this time next year and go, oh yeah, you hit pen of these, yeah, you only hit pen of 2 shadows this year, Ruth. What the hell happened? God, I hope not. Can you imagine? That'd be devastating. Devastating. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I will hopefully chat to you in the next one. Take care. Bye. Sloan.